Well, Diana, thank you so much for being here with me on the Entrepreneurial Success Podcast. Like I told you just before we started recording this, I was so excited when you reached out to me and you said, I want to talk about Facebook ads. And I thought, this is a lady I am not going to miss an opportunity on having on this podcast here today. So before we get started, why don't I hand over to you and you can introduce yourself to the audience?
Yeah, sounds good. Well, thanks so much, Henriette. I'm so excited to be here and share a little bit about Facebook ads and kind of all the do's and don'ts, the mystery questions, and kind of what's behind the scenes of them. So yeah, thanks for having me. I'm Diana. I am a Facebook ads expert. I work with 6 and 7 figure entrepreneurs, mostly who are service-based, selling high ticket, and are like online service providers. So launching their courses, programs, products online, and want to grow their audience, fill their launches, sell their offers through Facebook and Instagram ads. So that's what I do, and that's who I serve.
I know, and you know, this is where I get so excited because I know the benefits of Facebook ads, but I also know that if you don't do it right, hands up here, if you don't do it right, it can really be costly and it is a steep learning curve. So I think that what you're going to provide everybody here today is just going to help them, giving them that confidence to go and try it out, but try it out the right way. However, before we start talking about Facebook ads in general, because I'm so excited to get onto this topic, I want to know a little bit more about you and how you got started. I mean, what was it that led you to start doing Facebook ads, so to speak?
Yeah, that's a great question, and kind of well, never in a million years did I think I would be here doing this, but it's cool that I am, and I wouldn't change anything, my journey and what has happened. So my background is actually in higher ed, recruitment and marketing, and so that's kind of where I got my foundation of ads. Things happened, and I left higher ed, and I was kind of in a pickle and was like, well, how do I make money from I'm looking for another job. And so I just kind of started a business out of something I knew how to do, which was Facebook ads. And it took off really well that now I work for myself full time, make more than I ever did in higher ed. And it's pretty cool. So yeah, that's how I got to where I am. It started with Facebook ads, freelancing and door dashing. And now it's just like a full-time thing for me that I love.
Oh, I love it. And I love how you're using what you're passionate about and you just started your own thing with it. And I think in a nutshell as well, you know, it's kind of like that thing that sometimes when the worst things or the worst thing that we possibly think can happen to us drives us or pushes us into a corner, that's where we really start taking action and we got to go, I've got to make this work. This is, you know, fight or flight. And I can't go any further than where I am now with my back against the corner. I've got to get out of this corner and make it work. And I like that about you because, you know, you just took it, decided this is what I'm going to do. How long have you been in business, if I may ask?
Yeah, it's coming up on 2 years in August.
Yes, amazing. And I know, you know, with Facebook ads, there have been so many changes, you know, since I started using them. So just from going and hearing your experiences and what you're going to share with us today, I think it's just incredible knowing that there's experts like you out there who's keeping updated with all of these changes in particular, but also helping us as individuals to stay updated equally so we know what it is that we need to do. So let's dive in because I'm so excited to talk about this. I think, you know, when I talk to people in particular and they say, I want to do Facebook ads, but I'm not quite sure where to start. What is it that I need to do? So my question to you is, what do you think do people need to get in place first before they start doing Facebook ads?
Yeah, great question. And so me too, like when I'm talking to people who are like, Diana, I want to run ads. No, okay, let's check these boxes first. Otherwise, if these boxes aren't checked, the chances of you running ads and experiencing quote unquote failure, which really there's no failures, there's only like data collection. If you think about it, like any money that you put in, even if you didn't get results, you collected some data so that you can use to inform the future. But you also don't want to waste a ton of time or like energy running things, especially if you have a deadline that didn't work. And so there's kind of like 3 big components that I always talk about to have in place before running your ads. The first one is having a proof of concept offer. So you're putting out an offer that you've sold organically, filled organically. People have wanted it from just you sharing it organically. And ads are really something that you can use to put fuel on the fire versus using it to test if your offer is even wanted by the market. So you knowing in advance, people want this, people are buying it, people are downloading it, they're entering their email for it. It's an attractive offer versus, okay, I just built this, now I'm going to put ads behind it to kind of test and see if the market even wants it. In my opinion, it's definitely more beneficial to have a tested offer organically going into it so that we know the market wants this, let's just use ads to kind of propel it forward, versus doing like the testing of if it's even an offer that people want.
Yeah, absolutely. And I find that is so important because, again, hands up, that's the number one mistake I made. I didn't test my offer the first time I had it ready. I just went out there and I thought I'm going to do Facebook ads and I'm going to try and sell it. And oh my goodness, it was like literally banging my head against a brick wall. So I know I've made that mistake and I'm very honest about it, but I had to learn the hard way. So yes, I completely agree with that.
Yeah. And it's like, right, one of those things you do it once and you kind of figure out, oh, well, let's see first, like, pulling it back and then sharing it organically and seeing them too, because then it also gives you the perspective of if your ads aren't working, but your offer is good and people wanted it, it gives you not the thought of, oh, my offer is bad, but it's like, okay, something needs to be adjusted with my ads versus if you have an offer that's not proven and your ads also aren't doing well, it's hard to say what is the cause, and is it something that I just need to adjust my ads, or is it something I need to go totally back to the drawing board and kind of redefine or reinvent my offer, or a lot of marketing is just the name of the offer, those types of pieces first.
Yeah, no, definitely. It makes a lot of sense. So when you have your offer ready, what is the next thing that you need to have in place before you place the ads?
Yeah, so back-end systems. So whether that's like, of course, your funnel, you want to know, and that goes back to the offer works, but proof of concept that your funnel converts and at the conversion rate that you want it to convert. Then again, when you're bringing cold traffic to it, sometimes that can, make the conversion rate a little bit lower, but that's okay, right? As long as you know it works. Another huge thing is going to be what's your nurture sequence behind bringing people in. For example, if you're running a free challenge or you have a free download, okay, are they downloading it and you send them one email that says, thanks for downloading, here's your free offer, and then they never hear from you again until maybe 3 months later when you decide you're going to send a newsletter or something. That's a really good way to kind of build your list and really get nothing from it, because there's nothing behind the email sequence that's nurturing your people. So having a sequence set up in advance, knowing what the purpose of building your list is the purpose of the list building it 3 months in advance because you have a launch coming up in a couple months or something like that. So knowing like what's the purpose behind this, and then everything I talk about is really like, let's reverse engineer it. So where do we want to be, and then like what's the process, and where like how do we reverse engineer the process that makes sense? So really having that back end process, or if you're driving people into your Facebook group too, what's the like process for nurturing people once they get in there? Do you have a DM strategy? Do you have a VA, social seller, community support that's reaching out to people? Do you have content scheduled? What's the whole goal of these things? Because again, if you don't have a plan behind it, it's very difficult to come in and say, I generated all these leads, but they were all bad and none of them converted, when really, it's very easy as a cold lead from an ad to just forget about who somebody is or fall off after you joined a group or downloaded a freebie but never heard from somebody again for a couple of months. So really having those processes in place so that the leads you're generating are going to stay with you.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think, that's sometimes where I've spoken to a lot of people where they go like, oh my gosh, so I want to do, Facebook ads because I want to build my email list. And it's like, yes, okay, but what then thereafter? Once they get on your email list, do you already have the processes in place as to how you're going to nurture that relationship? Do you already have something in place that you can work with them in order to help them take the next step with you? And I very often find that people go like, don't have that in place yet. And it's like, okay, well then don't start Facebook ads. Get everything in the background done first. Like Facebook ads is almost like the last thing on the list that you almost need to do.
Yes. Yes, it is.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay. So let's talk about creating Facebook ads, because I think this is where people just go like, how the heck do I do it? And then when they look at things and they look at all of these things on Facebook, when you start creating an ad, creating a campaign and all of those, people just go like, huh? What on earth am I doing here? I don't even know. I'm just pressing buttons. I don't even know what I'm doing.
Right.
I've heard people actually say that, which really freaked me out and scared me. Because like, you're wasting money here. It's like gambling money away. You've got to do this right. So from your perspective, how do you need to create the right ads?
There's of course a lot of pieces, and so we'll touch on a couple of different ones, but I always like to talk about objective because it's the very first thing that you choose when you're going to create an ad. You hit the green create button and then it pops up like, what objective do you want to choose? And so listed there are probably 10, 12 different objectives, and right there that can make or break your whole entire campaign. So if you're not choosing the right objective, you can have the best copy, the best creative, spot on targeting, everything can be great, but if you chose the wrong objective, you may not get the results that you're looking for just because you didn't choose the right one. So even knowing what to choose for your objective is super important, and that shouldn't be something that you overlook. And so a lot of times if you are looking to generate leads or registrations or purchases, anything where you want to tell Facebook, I want people to sign up for this, or enter their payment info, or schedule a consultation call, or those types of things, you should use a conversion campaign. And so that's just, and a lot of times people will choose things like traffic campaigns, which do have their own unique purpose, but choosing the wrong campaign, for example, or objective, for example, if you choose traffic, you might end up just getting a lot of people who want to click and look at your landing page versus people who are actually going to take the action that you want them to. So that's where 97% of what I do is usually a conversion campaign. And so it's really just knowing like, what do these different objectives mean, and like which one should I be using to reach my goals?
Yeah, absolutely. Thinking about myself, because I can only talk for myself, having done Facebook ads myself, the first campaign I did was traffic. And I was like, not quite sure what I'm doing here. Then I got a bit of research done and I realized actually the conversion campaign is the one I should be looking at. So personally, I then quickly moved over to conversion campaigns, and I've been only using conversion campaigns myself because there's something specifically that I wanted them to do. And I wanted the algorithm to pick up on those people who are taking that action. So Facebook can go out there and find more people who'd be willing to take that action, i.e. signing up for a workshop. That was one of my main conversions that I was working on. And then when I kind of clicked as to how it worked, oh my gosh, it made such a difference. But I agree with you. It starts with the objective first. Number one, you've got to figure out what is the right objective for you, and then everything else will just fall in place. But again, not that easy. You've got to have a couple more things in place, which I'm sure you'll share.
Yeah, of course. Yeah, so definitely objective is number one. And I like how you talked about too, like having the algorithm find other people who are already taking that action, because it's so true. Like Facebook has more data points on us than we probably care to know. It might freak us out a little bit, but it is what it is. And so they know, and they kind of categorize us by the actions that we're taking on the platform. Is this somebody who does interact with conversion ads, or is this somebody who watches a ton of video content, or is this someone who just likes to read blog posts? And so they categorize us this way. So when ads are put out, they'll find people who are most likely to engage in that kind of objective. So running a video views campaign, and that audience can be totally different than who you would be reaching if you were to run a conversion campaign, because the people who watch videos might not necessarily be the same people who opt in for workshops or freebies and that type of thing. So yeah, that's another huge thing with even like retargeting strategies and all kinds of things, with knowing what objectives you're choosing and kind of how Facebook categorizes what people see, what ads.
Yeah, definitely. So apart from the objectives, what is the next thing then?
Yeah, so of course, targeting is a huge thing. And I always like to challenge people to think beyond, I guess, like the large and broad targeting. For example, things like yoga or mindfulness or just entrepreneurship or health and fitness, but more narrowing it down into really who their ideal client is, to get a better chance of really reaching people within their target market at a high level. So instead of, for example, if we were saying, instead of just targeting yoga, which who knows, it could be like 50 million people or so, thinking about like all the different, and I don't even know if I'm saying this right, but like types or styles of yoga. So like Kundalini or hot yoga. And so those are all different interests that you can go ahead and choose. And they're much smaller than 50 million across the board. So instead of like 50 million people who are interested in yoga in some way, if you're looking at these more targeted, very specific yoga styles, then you're finding people who are really probably more interested specifically in yoga and like in yoga in depth. And so other ways or things to think about is also different, like yoga equipment or chain studios or different gear or clothing that they would purchase or wear. It can also go to like places that they would eat in typical lifestyle things, different food brands, juice bars, that kind of thing. And so it's really knowing your ideal client on a basis of what they do every day, where they shop, what brands they're buying from, what brands they use, what they're wearing, where they're hanging out, what they're reading, all of those different things. And this is something I always encourage people, like, map this out beforehand. And of course, if you have like an ideal client avatar sheet or something, this probably has a lot of information that you can leverage for targeting as well. But having it all written out in advance, so when you go into Ads Manager, it's not something you have to spend hours and hours digging through targeting, but you already have this list right in front of you. You can go ahead and type it in the box, see what pops up, see what doesn't, and then go from there.
Yeah. Oh my gosh. The targeting, I think, was the biggest obstacle for me in the beginning, because in the beginning, when I started my business, I was still figuring out who my ideal client was. So I wanted to go down and just entrepreneurs. Those are the people I want to work with. And yes, oh, just these people. And what are the demographics? And oh, good this. And it's almost like a kid in a candy store, but you don't know what it is that you want, but you want it all, and you got to pay for it.
Yeah.
So yeah, I think, understanding beforehand your ideal client avatar, and look at all the demographics and look at everything it is that you feel they could be and they like and they need and they want. Only then do you go and slot it in then and see if you've got some connections there that would work with you. But at the same time, I think it's one of those hit and miss kind of things. You've got to try it out first a little bit and see what is a good number. I mean, from your perspective, I know that when you kind of put in the targeting, it kind of gives you a broad number. It's got that little arrow showing for you. What would you say is kind of like a good average to have on that scale?
Yeah, so this recently changed in my experience. And so before the iOS update and all of that would be like the 1 to 3 million range was a really great sweet spot to be at. Now I aim for more of like around 5,000 to 7,000 ish. Just because with the iOS update, the data that Facebook has on a lot of people using Apple devices who have opted out of tracking is a lot less. So having larger audiences also helps account for some of those missing data points that they do have on people and can't track for.
Ah, that's very interesting, because I know with the new iOS 14 update, there were some reasons as to, things are going to change. But now that you're saying it, it's like, oh, of course, I didn't realize, because I know with the new iOS 14, you can opt out from being tracked
Mhm.
constantly and, people seeing what it is you're looking at, as an example on Facebook. So you don't get those Facebook ads. And it makes so much sense now that you're saying it, because yes, that kind of scope, that audience is really narrowed down, and they're not
Mhm.
as much anymore. And I guess they've done it because of security. I mean, I'm not how can I say, an expert on Facebook, but I guess for security reasons, that's why they did it. So that's a good number to have, between 5,000 and 7,000, you said.
Yeah, I would say like within that range, and I'm always like, if you can't find like a spot that's in between that range, and say you're up to like 8 or 9 million, don't sweat it. If you're at 10, like it's fine. And it's one of those things, right? You kind of have to test and see what it is, but definitely don't do audience sizes, or I wouldn't recommend cold audience sizes of like 500,000, or even like 1 million can feel kind of small now. So the larger you can get it too, it helps with optimization, and as well as having like sustainable audiences that don't need to be like new ad sets restarted all the time, because your audience is fatiguing because it's so small. So it's
Mhm.
ads are showing to the same people 2 or 3 times in a matter of just like a week or two, because the audience is too small. Versus if you make it a little bit broader, you have an even larger audience to sustain you even more time.
Yeah, no, that's really interesting. I haven't even thought about it. See, you learn something new every day.
Yeah,
So
you do.
apart
I'm glad. I'm glad.
Honestly, I'm so thrilled that I'm having this conversation with you, because in the back of my mind, I can just see everything on my ad, like, yep, gotcha, tick, tick, no, redo that. So apart from the objective, the targeting, what is the next thing that people need to think and look at?
Yeah, so of course, like copy and creative are big parts of your ad. And so we're thinking more of now like the visual part and what people are seeing on the news feed. So with ad copy, of course, this is my personal opinion, and everybody has their own. I'm not a huge fan of super long ad copy, and I feel who knows if other people, if the majority of people are in the same boat. But for me, it's if I open up an ad and the ad copy is a mile long, it immediately is like, okay, keep scrolling. I don't want to read all of this. So something that I always like keep in mind when I'm writing copy for my clients is the goal of the ad copy is to pique curiosity and make them take the next step. It's not to sell the whole farm. You don't need to explain every detail. You need to make them interested enough to say, yeah, let me check this out. Like, let me see what this is about more. Click to the landing page or wherever you're taking them next, which can do more of the quote unquote hard selling and giving them more of the details that they're really looking for and needing. So thinking like copy, if you can get your message across in 1 or 2 sentences, more power to you, and go for it. That's amazing. Right, if it takes a couple paragraphs and bullet points, that's all good too. But I always think the shorter the better, and the more like curiosity piquing and even controversial in a way, or polarizing, that really sets you apart from what everybody else online is teaching, saying, hearing, can help as well. Either people interacting with your ads, so commenting, liking, having discussions in the comments, helps with the algorithm and helps you get an even lower cost to show it to people, because Facebook's like, people like this ad, let me show it to more people and I'll give you a lower price for it. As well as it typically helps with conversions as well, and finding people who really resonate with your message, because they're also on board with the polarizing or controversial stance that you're taking.
Personally, I agree with you as well, because when I did a couple of ads, I tested out doing shorter content versus longer content on the ad. And the shorter content always won,
Mm-hmm.
because again, it's about creating that curiosity. But people are, in the nicest sense, they don't want to read a whole bunch of content. It's just like, just tell me what you want,
Yeah.
basically.
Yeah, and I mean, and you have to think about if you are your ideal client, or even if you have a community of your ideal clients, before you run anything or test anything, one test is you can look at your ad and be like, is this something I would click on? And if it's not, well, then don't publish it, right? And you can show it to your current clients or people that you trust that are like your ideal client and say, does this resonate with you? And they might have different parts that stand out to them that they would make suggestions. They'll give it like a heck yes. And then by all means, go ahead and publish it and see how it does. But yeah, I agree that it's like, no one wants to read a novel on Facebook. You just kind of need to get them to perk their ears up and be like, ooh, what's this about? And is this of interest to me? And if so, let's see what's next.
Yeah, exactly. Another question I have for you is what do you find from your experience converts better? Whether it's images or videos or the carousel, all of those options that you get from your experience, what do you find really converts the best?
Yeah, great question. And this is something that is definitely different for everybody and worth a test for different things. I always am a big fan of testing video versus testing static images. And for some people, video is the clear winner, and for others, video totally bombs. And for some people, stock photos work amazing, and for others, it's like static photos. Something that I see often is a lot of people create these ad creatives or GIFs or even like images inside of things like Canva that have, I guess, a lot of word, text, details, which kind of in a way really stand out as being an ad versus someone just scrolling through and seeing it as like, oh, this is a post from a friend, someone I'm connected with on Facebook that looks interesting. So what's been working, I think, really well for my clients lately is just these images that are super native and selfies, pictures of them with their family on vacation, everyday life kind of stuff that looks like it's just another friend or connection on Facebook posting a picture and sharing a caption along with it, but it turns out to be an ad. Those tend to, really, and as weird as it sounds, is like, oh, why would you want to blend in to the news feed? It's also a way of, if you blend in, you're also not standing out clearly as an ad, which people don't go on Facebook to be like, ooh, I want to interact with a bunch of ads today. So it's also a way of getting people to engage with your content in a way that's relatable. So I would always test different images like that. And some people are like, even versus like professional photos are awesome and amazing and definitely use those on your website and your Instagram and all that good stuff. But even for ads, like a selfie video, a candid picture, those types of things tend to work much better than, a professional photo that you took of you sitting at your desk on your laptop that's staged or something like that.
Yeah. I think also, especially these days, people like the authenticity. They like things just being organic and natural. And that's what people sometimes, I think, crave as well these days. They want to just see in the moment things rather than stage things, plan things. So I kind of agree with you. Funny enough, I've never done something like that, but it did spark a little bit of a curiosity in me going, oh, maybe that's something I should try out, because it's part of, especially if you're a personal brand, I think that makes you really just resonate and connect with your audience a lot better as well.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I agree. And as much as it's kind of like, depending on like your brand voice and your message, are you like the friend? Are you the authority? Like, how do you position yourself? Kind of has to also, it can go with the picture, but it can also be asserted in the ad copy as well of your positioning. But too, right, the authenticity, being relatable, people actually seeing like kind of everyday life versus staged photo shoots or other like Canva images with a ton of words on them that are obviously mocked up and those types of things, I feel like work better. And personally too, that's what I'm a fan of as well.
Yeah, no, definitely. Okay, so we've got the objective, we've got the targeting, we know the copy. What is the next step then after all of these things are in place?
Yeah, I guess like going ahead and hitting publish. I think that there's, of course, well, I know that there's a ton of other steps in between, like figuring out your budget and setting your budget, figuring out your placements, deciding on those. quick tips for everyone. Again, not like 99% of the time I use automatic placements, which is not where you just let Facebook pick and choose where they want to put your ad. A lot of people are like, no, don't. There's a lot of controversy around this. And I think even more now that, again, iOS 14 rolled out, people are saying, well, use automatic placements because it, again, gives more leeway to Facebook on where they can place your ads without having super tight restrictions. And that's something that I've always believed. And I always like, the thing to keep in mind is as much as a lot of us want to be like, I don't trust Facebook, I want to like have as much control over this as I can. Facebook's goal is to create a really awesome user experience for people on their platform so they keep coming back. So they're going to serve them ads that they're going to enjoy, that they resonate with. And so if you create an ad that does that, they're going to show your ad and they're going to show it for a good price. On the other hand, you'll be able to tell too if it costs a ton of money to reach 1,000 people or you're not getting the conversions, your ad isn't resonating with people. And that's something where, okay, time to go back to the drawing board and figure out what to do next. But yeah, they're not there to like screw you over and put your ad placements all in Audience Network or something. More often than not, most of your placements will show up in the news feeds on Facebook and Instagram, and then sprinkle them out where other people are hanging out that they see as your ideal client and who might convert.
Yeah. Yeah. And the other question I have for you is and this is something from my personal experience. Once you've published the ad, how long do you let that ad run to check then the conversion, so to speak, or how many people are signing up or whatever it is that you set up as the objective? How long do you wait for that to run before you go back and edit it and say, okay, this didn't work, I might need to fix this, or I might need to fix this? How long should that take, do you think?
Yeah, so again, this recently changed with the update too. Before I would say anywhere from like 3 to 5 days, but now with reporting being slowed down, so it can take up to 72 hours for like data reporting to show up in Ads Manager. And so this is why too, with like iOS, of course, making sure your account is compliant with all of the new policies and whatnot too, but also having a way in place to really track your data. If you are doing conversions, something that I've set up for a lot of clients is add specific funnels so that I know if Facebook Ads Manager is showing 20 people opted in, but I can go into that funnel and see that 40 people opted in. I know that the cost per lead that's showing in Ads Manager, that might be $10, is actually $5 because double the people have opted in. So having that in place now too is going to be really important. But right, seeing that kind of result after maybe like, if it's something that's way higher than what you've done in the past, can be because of delayed reporting. So having that in place is going to be important so you don't freak out right away. Now it's more of like, so before I would say 3 to 5 days, now I would say more of 5 to 7 days to really give it to start running, getting results, as like everything that's coming into Ads Manager feels like there's a delay on it. So just giving it time to kind of have the data show up before you start being like speculating and figuring out what to do next, and also looking at the trends over those, I guess, 5 to 7 days too.
Yeah, because I think that was the hardest thing, and not just for me, but I've spoken to other people as well. As they go like after 2 days, like, oh, this is not working, and then they go and they change the whole campaign and they change things and change the copy, and then they run it again for 2 days and they keep on saying, well, I'm not getting the results. And it's like, okay, it's not because you're not getting the results, because you kept on changing too much. You're not giving the algorithm time, and you're not teaching it what it is that you want. So you teach it and then you've got to leave it. So it goes and go, okay, let me go and figure out what it is that you want. And I find that when I stopped editing constantly, thinking nothing is working, and I just let it run, then I started seeing the results coming in. I started seeing the conversions happening. And that's where I was like, mistake number 1, lesson learned. Well, mistake number 101, lesson learned. But it made a huge difference because it trained me as well to be a lot more patient, which for so many of us is the hardest thing because we want things to happen instantly.
Yeah, definitely. Right. So if you're running them, just kind of like turn it on, maybe don't look at it for a couple of days. And again, if you have your funnel set up, kind of look at the numbers that are coming in through there. But I know how it can feel to be like, you feel kind of anxious. You're like, why isn't this working? I want to see more numbers, all of these different things. So if you're somebody who's like that, it's kind of just like, just turn it on, come back to it in maybe 48, 72 hours, check on it, see how it's doing. And then again, if, again, I would say probably you'll still want to keep it on for a couple more days now, given the atmosphere of running ads. But yeah, patience is key, and definitely the longer things run too, the more, like with the algorithm, things get going, as well as engagement on your ads can increase too, which again helps lower the price with the social proof, and Facebook being like, hey, this is a good ad. So every time you edit it, the social proof goes away. All of those different things that you restart in the bid, in the algorithm. So as much as you can kind of like resist to keep your hands off of it until you can really tell, is this working or not, definitely do that.
Yeah, no, honestly, I do agree that patience definitely is key when you do Facebook ads. Trust me on this one. So I know that we've spoken about quite a few things here, and we used a lot of terminology based on Facebook ads. So some of the listeners are going like, yep, that makes sense. Yep, I've tried that. I've looked at that. And the other part of the audience is going, I have no clue what they just said. And I think for some people as well, they feel that it is just way too much to take on and do Facebook ads themselves. So they can easily get somebody to do the Facebook ads for them. Somebody like yourself who's updated, who knows exactly what's going on, who's done this for so many years, who's got all the experience with all of the clients, who see the different results, knowing what works and what doesn't work. So at the same time, I think people have this kind of perceived idea of getting somebody to help them to do ads is quite scary. But from your point of view, what is it that people need to look at? And what is it that people need to know what it is they need to look at before hiring somebody to do their Facebook ads?
Yeah. Right. A couple of different points is, of course, one, you're going to want to go back to, I guess, what we talked about at the beginning of the conversation about having everything in place. And so, again, no matter who you hire, if you don't have those things in place, there's a chance things will fall flat or not exactly work out. The other thing is, how well do you know your ideal client? Another thing that I'm always like, kind of like, feel nervous about is when people are like, well, I think this is the person, but I'm just kind of starting and it might actually change. The worst thing is to spend a ton of money on leads that you think are right, only to decide, nah, I'm going to switch it now, right? So it's also that where you're like so confident, like, this is my person, this isn't changing, this is who we're after, I got it. Like that's how, one, you're going to set yourself up for success on your end, and knowing like, I have everything like set in stone, what I'm telling this person to do. So nothing is kind of arbitrary, foggy, where there could be miscommunications, but really like, this is the person. And so that's part of it too. Now, okay, so those are kinds of things that I would say have in place on your end. When you go to look to hire somebody, of course, knowing that the person that you're hiring has done what you want to accomplish, right? So if you're an e-commerce store owner, the person that you're looking to work with has never run ads for e-commerce, for example, that might not be the best person for you, right? So then it's kind of like, okay, so searching out specific people who are looking or who are working on and working with clients who are in, I guess, like whether you're a high ticket coach or consultant, or if you're an e-commerce business, or if you're a local business, and making sure that those people have a strategy and have run ads for other people who are in your same kind of field or how you run your business. That's going to be super important. Otherwise, if you get somebody who, has run ads for local businesses and now you want them to run ads for your e-commerce business, yes, there's like some strategy across that can cross over, but at the same time, there's probably also better managers out there for you that you really want to feel like confidence. Okay, I know this person can do a good job. And that comes back to asking about results. And so I don't necessarily believe it's like, oh, can you write something specific for my product or my business, or show me an example that you would do for me, but more asking for case studies, testimonials, asking to speak with current clients. People ask me all the time, and I mean, if the person is good and confident in what they do, they have no problem sharing that information with you. So I think that's a huge part as well. That helps ease your mind. And then too, I think with ads managers and like any ad agency in general, is standard, I guess, industry rate is typically a retainer model of around $2,500 a month. So too, if you're speaking to ads managers that are also, and like nothing against them, they can be amazing ads managers as well, but again, it's going to be your own personal judgment and of course vetting of their work and results too, but that are also VAs or social media managers where they're not doing ads kind of full time and are charging maybe well under that. So in, I mean, $500, $700 range, that it might also be something to think about. Am I going to get, is this like the quality, you get what you pay for in a way? So it's also, you don't want to pay for somebody who's going to set up a traffic campaign for you when you need a conversion campaign or a brand awareness campaign when you need a lead generation campaign. So those different types of things, and just knowing like what you're investing in, what their strategies are, and kind of to like benchmarks for what you're looking for across the board.
Yeah, exactly. And like I always say to my clients, you know, it's about using your sixth sense. If you're getting somebody to help you in your business, yes, you can have all the facts in front of you, but your sixth sense will never lie. So you always have to listen to your sixth sense when you want to work with somebody to make sure that you feel, number one, there's a connection, but that it's the right decision in order to get that person to help you. And I do feel exactly the same when it comes to Facebook ads, because it is not just about providing a service, but you're providing a service in order to help a business, to help that business owner make more money in their business. And, you know, it's not one of those things that you can just make a decision because you just think, yeah, let's just go for it. You've got to make the right decision. And I think you'll be foolish not to listen to your gut and not to get all of those things that you just said, to kind of vet this person in order to make sure that they're the right fit for you and that they can do the job, basically.
Yeah, definitely. Yeah, I totally agree. It's like your gut will never lie. It has to feel good. And if it doesn't, probably don't do it.
Just go and search for somebody else, because the right person will be there. You just need to find them.
Yeah. And like, right. I know too, like I'm not the best fit for everybody, and that's totally okay with me as well, because the person that is ideal for you to work with and for me to work with and for anyone to work with is out there and exists. It's just a matter of getting in front of each other.
Yeah, absolutely. Oh my gosh, Diana, this has been so good just having you here talking things through, because now I get so excited. I just want to go out there and start doing some more Facebook ads. But okay, patience. We just spoke about patience. So listen, I think what I would like to ask you is, obviously for those people listening to us having this conversation and they go, yes, I've always wanted to do Facebook ads, but I'm too scared to do it myself. My suggestion is to go and reach out to Diana. If you like what you've heard today, if you feel there's a connection, if you listen to your gut and it just feels right, my suggestion is just go and connect with Diana. So what I'm going to do in the show notes is I've got a link to her website there and also a link to her Calendly schedule. So you can obviously go and schedule a chat with her. She's more than happy to have a chat with you, see what it is that she can do for you to help you out. And also I'm going to put her Instagram and her Facebook details in the show notes so you can go and stalk her and see what she's doing. But Diana, I just wanted to say, oh my gosh, thank you so much for being here with me and just sharing your knowledge and just making us feel like, oh, you know, I can do this. And if I can't, or if I don't want to, there's always the option of getting somebody like yourself on board in order to help us in our business, because Facebook ads are amazing and they will work for your business if you know how to do them right. That's it.
Correct.
Amazing. Oh, well, thank you so much for being here. I wish you all of the best, and you and I will be in touch very soon.
Amazing. Thanks so much. This was fun.
Amazing. Take care.
You too. Bye.